Okay, hello, welcome. I'm glad that you are all here. I expected like 5 people today after yesterday's party. I can say that I have a little deja vu from what happened last year because last year I also started at the same time, the same day, also after party. And surprise, surprise, I will be talking today about Power BI, but from a little different angle than usual. Because usually, if you know me, if you've ever been to any of my presentations, I always say about Power BI in mostly superlatives. But this time, I want to focus a little about deficiencies or shortcomings of Power BI, if you will. But again, first things first, let's see our sponsors whom we may thank for this conference. It will be definitely much harder if we haven't had them. And my topic today is about my love-hate relationship with Power BI. My name is Cholewa. I work as a head of BI in Algomine. From time to time, I can also, not as much as I would like to, but I also from time to time try to develop something in Power BI, or as my teammates could say, I tell clients what we will do for them, and then they are doing it. So today presentation is about one of the projects that I was working on for the last year or 2 years, and other cases are also from the projects that I was involved to, my side projects and so on. So without further ado, let's start. I will tell you a little about the project. So it's a project for a pretty big client, nationwide. The project is not about reporting. It's not about data. I know everything should be about data, but not in this case. The project is about the deployment of completely different tool, and reporting that we were supposed to do during that project was only a small part of it. So like they said, we have a Power BI, we want to have a couple of nice reports, so let's do it like an addition to what we are already doing with other tools. So I already mentioned that the tool of choice is Power BI. Yay. But for report server. That unfortunately complicates things a little. I know, we've all been there. If you've worked with report server, you know that it's a little different than the cloud version, and it's not as nice as as Power BI marketed on cloud. And if you ask me about what's wrong with Power BI for report server, the short answer would be everything. No, but actually, just joking. We all know that there are companies that cannot move to the cloud, at least not yet, and won't move to the cloud for a pretty long time still, whatever we want to say, and they still need reporting. So when I say about my love to Power BI for report server is probably the next best thing that you can have. What I can say more about this project is that we have data sources. Most of them are coming from transactional databases, no data layer in between, and the reports that we wanted to create were also based on flat files, so CSV and Excel files. So let's see what was so annoying in our project from the very beginning. So the situation that I described, we can see on this architecture, although architecture is a little overstatement when we talk about this diagram. So we have various data sources and different database engines. We had plenty of them, like 3 or 4 different kinds. Also files, flat files, Excel files, and as you may see, the challenges is of course everything in between. Everything in between the data sources and what we want to report. We had 2 types of reports. At least if you have Power BI for report server, you still can use paginated reports. It's pretty good. I know maybe it's not the It's not the most commonly known or shared experiences I have, but I honestly think that paginated reports are great, and they are sometimes the best solution for a client, especially for those who love to export to Excel. But let's see what would be our challenge in this case. Of course, redundant data loads with the same transformation. And in standard Power BI, in which usually you probably work with, you could do everything that inside Power BI. So you can actually connect to the data sources, you can transform the data in it, you can load the data, schedule everything, and so on and so forth. So you would be able to reuse the data sets and to also use data flows if you want to have some parts of the queries to be separated and to be used in other reports. So that's the case for the cloud version of Power BI, and you can use it, but unfortunately not for Power BI Report Server. Power BI for Report Server doesn't support shared data sets. So, meaning that all of this in between, if we are using one of the data sources and we want to combine it with other data sources, or we want to use it for just a single report, everything will be loaded over and over again. So, sorry guys, Report Server. So let's see number 2, which will be very similar to number 1, in which, again, the biggest challenge is with those data loads. And as you may imagine, if we are talking about data loads for Power BI, in this case, we had also the historical data, like 3 or 4 years worth of data to be loaded into those reports. And I don't mean aggregated data. What I mean when I say we had to load the data into the reports, I mean transactions, like really buying, selling, stuff like that. Maybe not as huge, but still a couple of thousand records per day. So again, what we would think that would be a challenge. So definitely the full data load with every refresh, plus of course number 1. So what we said, the redundant transformations, and what we could do in a Power BI cloud solution, of course, would be incremental refresh, or some kind of composite model that we could use. But guess what? Again, incremental refresh is only supported for Power BI Premium, for Premium per user, for Power BI Pro, and Power BI Embedded. Nothing about Report Server. So, sorry guys, we are not using incremental refresh, and we are also cannot use composite model. But because guess what? That's also not supported when it comes to Report Server. So again, no solution here, at least not yet, only things that don't work. So let's see. And I think that this one is my personal favorite one when it comes to the Report Server and when it comes to things that annoy me the most in Power BI. So we had a report. Again, that's what I'm talking about. We had a report combining 2 data sources, unfortunately both based on flat files. And this report, the main goal of this report, like a business case, was just to combine the data and create kind of a balance process. So balancing one data source with the other. And whenever we have an issue, whenever we see that the data sources don't balance each other, we have different numbers, they don't fit, users wanted to get notification. Of course, we would say that's not a huge problem. Usually every tool has some kind of notification system. Usually we would able to send and receive some notifications. So things that we could use are, for example, alerts or email subscriptions. When we were thinking about it, both would work. We didn't expect much. It's supposed to be just a simple email, and with it we could do a lot of other things. But I will tell you at the very beginning that alerts are not supported in report server. So again, something that is very, very common and you can use in standard Power BI, and by standard I of course mean cloud version. It's not supported in Power BI for report server, but we know that in report server we have subscriptions. So whenever you go to a report, you click on ellipsis and you can either subscribe or manage to create a new subscription. Of course, when you fill all of the fields for your subscription, it's supposed to work. Supposed to. Not sure if you noticed, and I did it on purpose, the report that is marked here is not a standard report. It's not a Power BI report. It's RDL version, so it's paginated report. And it works very fine for paginated reports, but at the same time, subscriptions in Power BI report server don't work for PBIX files, which is kind of very annoying because at the same time it works perfectly for standard subscriptions, and we could say that it's easy. It shouldn't be that hard to create a subscription. So have we thought about some kind of workarounds? Yes, we had. So we thought, okay, since we have the same data, since we are able maybe to build the report in paginated version on the same data, maybe that would be our solution. But no, it wasn't. You remember number 1 and number 2. If we wanted to create shared data set, that wouldn't be possible, of course, again, report server, and we wouldn't be able to reuse it for Power BI paginated report. What is funny, and again, very, very annoying, you can do the same for Power BI cloud version, because you can connect with paginated report to a shared data set from standard Power BI. So, and I mentioned before that subscriptions are not working. You probably know Microsoft ideas, and you are aware that whenever we have an issue, we have an ID, we can go there and either vote or submit an idea, and maybe at some point it will be developed, but not in this case. And this one is very surprising because it had a lot of votes. It's really old idea, shouldn't be so hard, but it was declined. And when I looked into comments under this idea, they are very very interesting. Still, people are asking about subscriptions in Power BI report server. Nothing is going on with it. We don't get subscriptions, it won't be done there. So, as I may say, this issue also wasn't solved for our project. Yes. Yes. Yes, and we have also new submissions from 2022, because I checked, okay, this is old. So maybe we have something new, maybe someone else submitted, maybe it will go to the release plan and at some point it will be done, but no, it's not. Problem number 4 that we've noticed with Power BI report server. As you may see, this is Power BI report published in web portal, and what is really very annoying, and not also for me but mostly for business clients, that if you try to enlarge your report, you most likely going to fail and you will end up with this small part, and the screenshot is from my laptop. So The screen is pretty small, but you can imagine that a lot of clients work like that. And they are not tech savvy. So just to change and enlarge it in some other way. And when we wanted to present a report and when they wanted to work on the report, and this is a pretty, let's say, complex one. It's not super cute, but had a lot of data. Everything seems to be blurry, except that, of course, I blurred it on purpose. So you would say, in a standard way, you have a full screen, you have fit to page, you have other options just to go and have report bigger, but not in Power BI report server. Even a simple thing as that is not working. So you end up with a lot of free space, but at least for this one, there is a workaround. When you add this part to your URL in report server, it can get bigger and it can be nicer and easier to read. So let's see again, number 5. So we already know this problem because I mentioned it from the beginning. We have one terrible report. I probably shouldn't call it like that because it's very useful, but the way of creating it was difficult. The report, which is based on files, and those files are, as you may imagine, they need a lot of transformation. There's no star schema in it, so we ended up with creating it, and we've ended up with loading and reading from those files over and over again. And of course, again, problem that I described in the first point. So we are partially doing the same transformation over and over again, and we are loading a lot of data in it, and many times the same files. And what would be great to solve it in Power Query is not to solve it in this way, but we used a lot of duplicate and reference in this case. And it is a common misconception that if you load queries and use a reference from it, because reference is great when you want to branch your query, so you have a single query doing repeatable things, and you want to branch that query into other queries with different paths, with different transformation later. It would be nice if you could reuse some kind of cached version of data. So that's why I said that it's a common misconception that reference cache the data before loading to other queries. In fact, it's not. Whenever you use it, you will still end up with the same amount of queries as you would have with duplicate. So again, I would say that this is the issue that we couldn't solve, and that would be easily solved in the cloud version. So with datasets and data flows, I'm pretty sure you know it, of course, if you can use them. So up till now, on my personal list of things that annoy me, especially in Power BI report server, we have a lot of issues with the data, with redundant loading, with processing, with refreshing, with reports that were not even able to refresh on scheduled refreshes. And before we go further, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you already think about solution that can help with it. At least with those points. It won't help with the full screen mode. Probably not. Definitely not. And I'm pretty sure that some of you already think, for the love of God, woman, build a data warehouse for it. You will not end up with having so many data loads, with having so many transformations and not having any kind of data layer in between. I know that Michał was definitely thinking that. But as you may imagine, we have a client Again, I will repeat, the project is not about the data. And the situation always looks like that. You go to the client, you say, okay, you have to end up with data warehouse. It will take some time, a couple of months at least. It will cost you a lot of money, but you have to do it. And of course, we know client agrees, gives us a lot of money, and we are building data warehouse. Not. That's not how it goes, and that's not how it looks in the real life. But at least for this project, I can say that we were able to create POC on a standard solution. So with using, again, everything is on-prem. So using SSIS, and showing that everything will be much better with Power BI, with refresh times, with the data, with redundancy that we had in the project, just by doing it. And in the meantime, I know that we will need to pay that debt at some point, but in the meantime, we also built a data layer just for the simple things as subscriptions. And we were able to convince client that with that kind of solution, they cannot stick just to reporting. And I think that it's a really good lessons learned from the situations like that. If you what I love about Power BI, and I was asked about it. So I love Power BI for that you can in most of the cases do everything in it, at least for the first point, at least to prove client that they can have already working reporting, and they don't have to wait until everything in the backend is ready. But that's not always stands true. When you work with report server, you should probably consider that sooner than later. But that's not the end of my list of the things that annoy me. Number 6, true for both. When you work with Power BI desktop, especially with Power Query Editor, you may see, of course, another great examples. We have like 72 queries in here. And if we want to clean it, if we want to declutter our Power Query, it would be nice to know and to be able to search in Power Query. We can search in fields, we can search in the report view, but we cannot search in Power Query, which is just awful. Actually, I don't have any idea to solve it. Maybe grouping queries into folders. Yes. But again, it should be easier. Definitely much easier in the Power Query Editor itself. Yeah, that's of course not a solution. Don't create so many queries. But in fact, it is. It is. We have to think, when we have to remember while creating queries, not to overload it, and whatever we are testing already, don't leave it in the Power Query Editor. Don't leave it here, because we will end up with not knowing anything. Speaking of which, again, redundant queries, slow data loads, not optimized queries. And what do we have to do in here? Or what we should do in here if we want our report not to stop working at some point? We should, of course, optimize our queries. And there is a really nice tool inside Power Query Editor. It's called Query Dependencies. And in Microsoft documentation, it's a really small diagram. It looks simple, while in fact, it can look like this. So what I'm annoyed with, again, with Power BI, both versions, is that we have very limited options in query dependencies. So if you want to declutter your data loads, if you want to make it cleaner, make it nicer, make it just more optimized, it's really hard to do it with the tool like that. Again, maybe don't create so many queries. No, don't listen to me. If you want, you could. But that point will be better. we have a release plan for Power BI, and a lot of changes are coming in September. You can even see it here. And one of the changes is new Power Query experience. So in the new Power Query experience, we will have more things like we have in an online version, like diagram view, query plan, query folding indicators, and schema view. So definitely much easier, much nicer look, and it will help us with creating a new fuzzy matching capabilities. So we have a lot more options to go with Power Query. Number 8. This one is from one of my side projects. When you actually you can have it whenever you work with APIs and whenever you want to pull the data from a page. So from many sources, when you pull the data from API, you could have the data coming from paged webs, meaning that you would need to create some kind of loop, some kind of function, and of course that's the idea for solving it, just to retrieve all of the pages with the data. The function itself is not very complicated. Also, how to use it is as well not complicated. You will just use parameters and invoke the function with it. But there is one issue when you want to publish this data into Power BI service and when you want to refresh that data in Power BI service. What you would get after it. So if Power BI service recognizes that you are using dynamic data source, your refresh won't work. Is there a solution for it? And actually for this one, there is a solution, because you can use relative path from web contents function, and your function, when you use it, will work perfectly. Again, simple thing. We can have workarounds just to solve it. So number 9, and that one is actually the last one that I have on my personal list, the last one so widely mentioned. When you create your report, and I know reports in Power BI are not for tables and are not for matrices, but again, client wants to have their tables, so they do, and they get it. We always can create reports that are more visually appealing than just a simple table. So we can format it. We can add bars, vertical bars, horizontal bars. I always messed up those two. So we can add some additional coloring. I hope you can see it. We can add indicators. We can add a lot of formatting in Power BI itself. But when it comes to exporting it, and let's be honest, what's the most important functionality in every reporting tool? It's always export to Excel. So when we want to export to Excel, this is what we are ending up with. And imagine your clients being exporting the data and expecting it to at least be formatted well. So we have a very limited formatting options when it comes to exporting to Excel. So no colors, no things like that. So when it comes to this, my personal list, I know that we can talk a lot about the efficiency of Power BI report server. I think that it can be an hour-long session by itself. the lesson from it is always plan what you want to do and see what shortcomings come with it, so you are able to solve them. Another things are you can find workarounds, or you can solve them in other way. And I also have few honorable mentions when it comes to things that annoy myself, and I ask other people about that. So, for example, the entire deployment process, the process of DevOps, CI/CD. I know that somewhere near here, in the next, in one of the rooms here, we have a session about Azure DevOps and Power BI. If I haven't had to be here, I would be there just to see how guys solved the issue and how they are doing it. We all know that in Power BI, versioning is not like the best thing if you want to work in pairs, if you want to work with other people on the same report. That's not easily done. So this is a huge topic. I know that Microsoft is doing much more, and we are getting better and better experience, but still, it's not the best thing that we can have. Other thing that is annoying, the lack of folders and subfolders. I also saw it as pretty high on ideas page, and it's going to be in Power BI report, Power BI service. I mean, of course, we already know and have that we have folders and subfolders just to organize our reports in Power BI report server, so it works there. But in Power BI service, it will be also on the list. We don't know yet. There is an idea submitted, and I would just say that, come on, in Power BI report service, we're getting more and more new things. But I would say that when it comes to Power BI report server and users working in it, we are still a little neglected. And I would even say not just a little, even very neglected when it comes to new things. It used to be a version of Power BI desktop for report server. It used to be just an older version of a standard Power BI desktop, but as of now, it's very outdated. We are missing so many things. We are missing so many functionalities that could be useful, but still, we all know that the cloud is better. Okay, so that was one of the honorable mentions from here. What we don't have, again, in Power BI report server, we don't have dashboards. Not sure if you tried to create visually pleasing dashboard in Power BI report server. It's not possible. One of the things that that is also a little annoying, a small thing, if you want to order your items on the legend, you always have to create additional ordering in just to have it. Some people hate bookmarks and updating them, and I do feel it. And I'm pretty sure that you all have your own personal lists of things, if you work, of course, with Power BI, of the things that annoy you very much, or as I call them sometimes, those are facepalm moments when you work in Power BI and at some point think, oh my God, it's not working like it's supposed to. So that was my personal list. I'm pretty sure that you have your own. Thank you. And if we have questions, we can now answer them.
I have just one question. So your client using Power BI report server. I think it's on-premise cloud, yeah?
Yes.
So it has enterprise edition of SQL. Why the hell you don't use analysis service? The cost will be the same. Power queries will be transferred to analysis services.
Yes.
Building the model and calculation will be exactly the same, and you have shared data set, partitioning, refresh, all of that.
Yes. Yes, that's what we actually started doing it with our POC, just to show them that you can use it, you should actually use it. The project was funny from the beginning because if I say that it's totally not about the data and totally not about Power BI, it was about deploying, I can say, deploying Jira in an organization. So, you know, it doesn't fit together like a project with data and project with deployment of a tool like that. But yes, we did. That's what we started. We were hired to just create few reports just to help with it. But at the same time, we've noticed that we cannot go that way. We have to start using analysis services. We have to use SSIS. And that's why we brought additional, let's say, resources, additional people.
Even I was afraid we talk about the same customer. I have very
Hope not.
And using integration services was a good and acceptably bad code. Yeah? But we use our query in analyzing services. And that was a solution. We still have some repeatable queries in models, but we had a shared data set.
Yes.
That was the most important thing.
Yeah. That was exactly the reason why it was on the first point of my list, that you don't have shared data sets, so you are bummed with the project. You cannot do almost anything that you would normally able to do with even with the simple Power BI.
Some other problem, for example, if you have reports in Power BI report server, you can't connect to the data set with Excel to analyze services. You can use Power BI desktop from service. So I think the benefits.
Yes.
A lot of benefits.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. I will add it to the cost of the project. Thank you. And you are free. Maybe we will talk about some consulting. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, so I guess that I will give you additional time for coffee and some water. Stay hydrated. We all know that we are after a party. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you again, although I was complaining today about Power BI, so I'm expecting they're not going to invite me anymore. Thank you.